I'm Lynn Broughton, owner of Taste Detours. Taste Detours has always been about bringing people and places together around food, but lately it's been a bit tougher to stay connected to our food communities. So I decided it was time for a road trip.
It's such a beautiful day.
Wellington County is home to some incredible food visionaries who are using circular and regenerative practices to reimagine our food system. I wanted to know what the future of food looks like to them. This is my Circular Detour. The first stop on my Circular Detour was Heartwood Farm and Cidery, near the town of Erin. Brent Claassen and Val Steinman showed me around their stunning farm, which they run with a real thoughtfulness about the natural cycles of the land. I sat down with Val to learn more about their philosophy.
I think what I would say characterizes Heartwood the most is diversity. It's part of our philosophy of how we work with the land and our farm, creating diversity that mimics the natural diversity in ecosystems where all kinds of different living things are part of the system. So we do all kinds of different things that change through the seasons.
On top of making award-winning craft ciders, Heartwood produces maple syrup. They raise chickens, sheep, grass-fed cattle, and pastured pigs. And they've also cultivated a forest garden filled with fruits, berries, and botanicals. All these elements work together in Heartwood's regenerative farming vision.
So what exactly is regenerative farming?
Regenerative farming is really based on a set of principles that come from nature's example. So it's a way of farming that recognizes how we can support natural living systems in how we grow food. Livestock integration is one of the principles that is near and dear to my heart because I love working with livestock. But it's based on the understanding that animals and plants and soil and the whole living ecosystem have co-evolved and they all are mutually beneficial. We are really focused on creating conditions for life to thrive. Nature is the original circularity diva. And for me, farming ecologically or farming regeneratively is all about working to reestablish and revitalize nature's cycles on our farm. And the interesting thing is that that really has informed how we think about our cidery as well.
Heartwood cider showcases how delicious circularity can be. The team makes and bottles it in the farm cider house, but production really begins in the orchard.
All of our recipe inspirations kind of start out here in the forest garden with things that are growing, berries, other botanicals, other fruit as well. And we're constantly rummaging around, trying to find things that we think might be interesting in a cider. And when we do find things that seem to work, then the next step is how do we take that recipe and actually do it on a production scale. Now we don't grow enough of any ingredients to support our own production needs. So at that point, we look to this community of farms and friends that do grow things at scale. And so it becomes a collaboration, right, and a mutually supportive endeavor. But it's just like an explosion, right?
Sourcing from other local growers is all a part of Heartwood's version of regenerative farming.
To me, that's really part of regenerating a healthy rural landscape and bringing circularity into our local economy. If I support you and you support me and we create new opportunities to collaborate, I think the whole community benefits in a lot of ways from those kind of relationships.
The team also uses their waste stream for product inspiration. When I visited, they were busy bottling a special cider made from leftover ingredients that would have otherwise gone to waste.
So good.
So we're constantly thinking about how do we make sure that we use everything that we've got here, and that's kind of It's about being a responsible steward of the material that we take, from the land.
And the other thing that we love to do is share the story of the farm, bringing people here for all kinds of different experiences so people can see the fields and pastures and learn a little bit about the potential that regenerative farming has for really revitalizing the landscape and creating a food system that builds on the strengths of nature and is going to be feeding us into the future.
I headed up to Wellington North to visit Ryan Pfister. Ryan and his wife Jess are first-generation farmers, and they run the very lovely, very busy 100-acre Pfister farm. Ryan gave me a tour and I got to see how sustainability works its way into everything they do. So what goes on in this beautiful place?
Well, we specialize in practicing regenerative and sustainable farming practices. Pasture rotating, free-range eggs, chickens out on pasture, cattle on rotation, minimum tillage, cover cropping.
What do all those things achieve?
Mostly it is soil health. So by moving the cattle every few days onto a new pasture and letting the one they came off of rest for a minimum of 30 days and spreading out their manure is soil health. It's regenerating the soil.
These kinds of practices are the building blocks for Pfister's sustainable regenerative farming philosophy and helps them produce quality, nutritious products.
I guess we mostly want to specialize in pasture-raised products, free-range chickens, pasture-raised meats, just how we think an animal should be out in its natural habitat eating bugs and grasses. We kind of wanted to roll with that whole idea. We have both meat broilers here on the farm and laying hens. Our laying hens are for eggs. They're all free-range eggs. They get to wander the farm wherever they want. Jess also came up with this great idea of the chicken CSA, which is basically a farm share of chicken, and you get a delivery every month of fresh chicken. And cuts vary. There's a few different options to choose from, but yeah, you get fresh chicken monthly delivered to your door.
Nice.
We also do turkeys. We like to have fresh turkey for Thanksgiving and sometimes Christmas, depending on the year. We also have a small herd of belted Galloway and dun Galloways, which is a grass-fed finished cattle, which we do cow-calf, everything in store. We cow-calf and we bring that calf right up.
The Pfisters make full use of the farm. They offer ready-to-grow vegetable gardens to support home gardeners and a range of seasonal products on top of their eggs and pasture-raised meats.
We do bees here, maple syrup when we can. We have a few elderberry bushes that we pick and sell elderberries, frozen or fresh. And we also have a ton of apple trees on the property, which we pick in the fall and do a big batch of apple cider, and we sell that all fresh cider.
Can I come and live here?
For sure. We're always open. People are always stopping by, and we always have product for sale. You can always get that friendly face. You can always get the tour. Keep circling back to just supporting local. By supporting us, it goes back to supporting the hatchery, the feed mill, the processing plant. It's not just us, the Pfister farm. There's everybody which we support, which is all local. Getting from a supermarket, where does your chicken come from? Which farmer? Where did he get his birds? The farmer could probably answer that question. The supermarket, I'm not sure. I guess it's not so much educating people in farms and farming practices. It's more educating the public to know where their food comes from and how it was raised.
The final stop on my circular detour was right back here in Guelph, visiting Matt Soltis. Matt runs the Urban Orchardist. It's a consulting and tree care business that helps people create edible landscapes throughout the city and beyond. Matt's own backyard is a great example of a productive urban food forest, so we started there. But first things first, what exactly is a food forest?
So as opposed to just like grass and maybe an annual vegetable garden or, the occasional fruit tree, a food forest is more like all the layers of the forest. So like trees that become like canopy species eventually, like large trees, shrubs and smaller trees, vines, like an edible and medicinal understory.
Right.
So like all layers of things growing together in what can seem kind of a chaotic way, but is extremely lush and productive and just a different model of growing food.
So what do you think the potential is for local food production, like urban food production?
So I'm well aware there are like hundreds of fruit trees, pears and apples and cherries and peaches and so on, that are really mostly neglected. Much of this fruit can fall to the ground or gets, taken over by pests that people don't really know what to do with, and it becomes more of a burden. And so there's tons of potential if these fruit trees were cared for, pruned to be more disease resistant and easy to harvest. And if people knew more what to do with these fruit trees, and if there's more of a culture of care for them and excitement around them, I think there's tons of potential for, easily tens of thousands of bushels to be produced from existing trees, not to mention all the things we are planting all the time here.
To help people get the most out of their own food forests, the Urban Orchardist offers tree and plant care services, training, and design advice.
I realized that the skills I was developing, the skills in fruit tree pruning and troubleshooting pests and just a design and stuff like that were kind of rare skills. No one else was really offering these skills in Guelph as a business. Yet people I knew were like buying out fruit tree nurseries of their fruit trees. And
Right.
There's this huge interest in gardening and local food production.
And in his greenhouse, Matt cultivates fruit trees and berry bushes for home gardeners.
You can buy a fruit tree from a nursery, but no one really, besides some basic planting instructions, there's no instructions anywhere on like care and troubleshooting and training to be productive earlier in its life. For me, it's local food production, it's connection with nature for people of all generations, and it's about knowing where your food comes from directly out your back door.
Right. The connections. That's such a Taste Detours thing. I love it.
Yeah. And hopefully this as a demonstration site can inspire many other people to just see what's possible outside of the normal box of just gardens or fruit trees that stand alone.
To show me what a large urban food forest could really look like, Matt brought me to the orchard at Ignatius Jesuit Center. It's a 1-acre fruit orchard on the edge of Guelph where Matt works planting, tending trees, and teaching workshops.
So Ignatius is home to the largest center of community garden plots in the city of Guelph. And there's already a large community engagement component of this whole center. And so with the orchard being right here, we are really positioned to be like a teaching center and demonstration center for what an established orchard is like and how to learn fruit tree care skills on an established orchard. So we run workshops here and have volunteers here. And I'm generally trying to transition it from a more monoculture apple orchard into a diverse community food forest.
Right. So community plays a large part in all of
It
this,
does,
of course.
absolutely. With orchards and food forests and, perennials like berry bushes, they get more abundant each year. And I just love that as a metaphor for what our neighborhoods could become too. They could become more rich and abundant in connections each year. Because every year they really are producing more fruit. And there's more tasks required and there's more skills to be shared. And there's just many ways I think circularity is built into it. My vision for my business, the Urban Orchardist, and for Guelph, and for cities everywhere, is that I would think this should be like a place full of food. I think I would love to see every yard in Guelph have at least one or more fruit trees. Every park could have a community food forest people can go and have celebrations in and harvest in and learn things from and meet their neighbors in. And I just think there is enormous potential to have cities become these like lush and productive places.
Heartwood, Pfister Farm, and the Urban Orchardist were just some of the destinations on my Circular Detour. I visited lots of Wellington County visionaries who were doing amazing things with circularity. Head to tastedetours.ca for even more stories about brewers, millers, bread makers, fish farmers, and so many others who are revolutionizing how we feed ourselves.